name is Brian White. I'm a senior consultant in product marketing focused on data protection. And I'm here to talk about that final piece of the threat funnel, recover from a cyber attack. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that Samir talked about, as well as some of the things that Adam and Steve talked about as well, and telling the story on how we help customers, right, restore the organization to a secure and operational point after an incident. So let's jump right in. So we look right here. We asked the three questions, and everybody asked these three questions that we go down. When it comes to data protection, we want to make sure that people are understanding certain things in order to be able to recover the data in a proper form to continue running the business. So we asked this question: do you take advantage of an air gap or data isolation? Meaning, can you separate certain data and critical data from attack surfaces? Do you actually analyze your backup data for corruption, anomaly detection in that phase? And actually, how often do you actually even test your recovery procedures? And that is one of the most important things. I think Steve mentioned it earlier about test recovery procedures, and I'll get more into that as well. But ransomware has evolved time and time again. And over the last few years, what they've been doing now is attacking the backups. The reason they attack the backups is why? You can't restore if you don't have a backup. So Sophos News did a survey of a lot of IT industry folks globally. 94% of the folks say that the criminals attempted to compromise their backups. And those that were compromised, the overall recovery cost was 8 times the amount. And when I think of recovery costs, I'm not just talking about the restore. You're talking about operations that have to come into play. You're talking about employment. You're talking about reputation. You're talking about downtime. You talk about customer impacts. That's a lot. And also, when backups are compromised, ransomware payments actually double. So what I want to talk about is, how do we get you to that point where you see that little red button for recovery, where everyone's nervous about recovering that data, or that little red button to become a lot bigger and you have more confidence? Steve said, we don't sell confidence, but we do sell some confidence because we want to make sure that our customers can actually restore from corruption in order to resume business in case of a cyber attack. So let's look into this. Power Protect Data Domain. It is the foundation of our data protection and our data resilience story. Here you have a regular data center, you have your production workloads, and you have a backup. Power Protect Data Domain is a target appliance backup that's heterogeneous, so multiple products and vendors can actually run backups to data domain. And you wonder, why can everybody use it? Well, we make it simple. Immutability. I believe Miss Jennifer might have said something about immutability earlier. When we talk about immutability, we're talking about locking down data that it cannot be changed unless it is specified by its retention. Now, retention like governance allows people to be able to go in and modify retention, but that dual authorization that Samir mentioned means that if I was to go in and try to change it, well, I also have to get Mitch to go in there and also give me authorization to do it. Multiple authorizations provide that security platform for it. End-to-end encryption, data in flight and at rest. You gotta have encryption, just in case people get the data. Well, they can't read it. That's what you want. Encryption. Multi-factor authentication. That means when Mark tries to log in, he also has to do multi-factor authentication, or a password or a PIN or an email or something to make any changes or modifications to the storage appliance. Secure system clock. Let's take Jasper, for instance. Jasper may come in and decide to say, hey, guess what? I want to kick off a ransomware attack. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into DNS after I get privileged access from a security account, and I'm going to advance the clock. And when you advance the clock, what that does is it times out the retention periods on the backups. So if the backups were set for 3 weeks and you advance that clock, once it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, those backups just delete or they can be overwritten. And that's what happens with a lot of the ransomware attacks where they delete that backup data. You can't restore. Now you're in a bad situation. The file system on the data domain has its own file system. It's hash containers, not recognized by malware, so it's all hardened down. And also when we actually connect to moving data to the storage, right? DD boost, all the data is encrypted. So people are on network sniffer trying to see different data and credentials going across, it's all encrypted, so they're not able to get access to it. Now, this is just a regular data center. Production workloads, production backup. This situation is right on the surface of a ransomware attack. So we take Tom. Tom wants to access this. Privileged access. He gets an account. He may have access to the data that's here, but he may not be able to do anything to the data that's on the target appliance. But let's expand that and let's take it a step further. Now what I want to do is you have the regular data center that you have here, whether it's on-prem or cloud, multi-cloud, different sites, all these, the production environment. Again, Tom has the account. He's good to go, right? What we want to do is separate from the attack surface. What we do is we do a synchronization. We do an automatic data isolation of critical workloads and critical applications or whatever applications that you can see. The critical ones are in green here, I will show. We send them out to what we call our cyber recovery vault. The cyber recovery vault can be on premise, it can be in the cloud, it can be co-located, it can be in the same data center, but it has its own network segmentation, it has its own DNS. The credentials in the cyber recovery vault are totally different than the credentials that are in your regular production environment. So if Ben decides to try to access data in the vault, he doesn't have credentials there. It's set up differently. The only way data gets into the vault is through that data isolation, through policies, through applications and backup software. Now it's moving data from the vault, from the production environment to the vault through data domain. There's a policy that goes and says, send me the backup data. It opens up a port, it sends the backup data into the vault, and once the data has been sent to the vault, it closes the port so nobody else can get access into that vault. We then lock that data with immutability, so it can't be changed at all. And then we analyze that data. I'll go into the analyzing piece in a minute. But you also get the reporting, and now you get all the data that you can do to restore. So that sounds kind of interesting with the data that we go, but the interesting part is the recoveries. How do we recover all of this data? What does Dell do that can recover the data that maybe somebody else can't do? Well, we have a whole lot of different recovery pieces here that can meet anybody's SLAs that they want. You can see on the right side, you still have the production environment, whether it's cloud or on premises, however you want it to be. You can restore from your immutable backup copies from the backup directly into your production workloads. You can also restore it directly from your DR site and do what we call live mount or instant access, where you can stand up virtual servers from the data domain data store and give people access to them on the network. If you look at C, that's called automatic recovery. We can also put backup applets into the cyber recovery vault, like PowerProtect Data Manager, that can also read the data on the data domain that's in the cyber recovery vault. And whenever you find a good backup, you can automatically restore that backup directly into the production workloads wherever they are. All of these things give you the confidentiality, that integrity, and making sure you can have the data available when you need it. You look at D, which is a reverse replication. That takes the data directly from the data domain that's in the vault and sends it back to the data domain that's in the production environment. And then you can then do other restores from in that production environment. E is the instant access, bringing up virtual servers right off of the data domain, giving people access to test and understand what's going on. And then there's this other option called restoring to the clean room. Now, the clean room is another cyber vault. that allows you to put applications to do more testing and validation of threats before you restore that data back into your production environment. Or you can even turn your clean room into minimal viable compute, which means you can bring your clean room up online to be your production environment if need be. All these things give you different ways for SLAs for the customers to restore from a cyber attack. Now let's go into the analytics of it.
Wait, before you, question before you go there. I just want to understand the elements here.
Yes.
So I've got a data domain appliance. If I'm backing up to that, am I also sending data to a cyber recovery vault, which has another data domain appliance?
That is correct. So the vault and the production, they replicate back and forth to data domains. But the only way that data is controlled is from the cyber recovery vault. It has different credentials. It is the only place that initiates movement of data from production to the vault or from the vault to production.
And the cyber recovery vault, is that like something hosted offsite by Dell, or where is the cyber recovery vault? Is it a cloud service?
Good question. Cyber recovery vault can actually be in the data center, or it could be co-located or at a different location. It's network segmentation of a completely installed network production of a vault. So the credentials, it has its own Active Directory in place, has its own networks in place, it has its own power. So everything it is using is separated from the production environment, even if it's in the same building or the same data center in that fashion. Does that help?
It does, yes, thank you.
Awesome, great question, by the way. So let's get to the analytics of these things, right? So Ben, you may say, so I'm doing these backups, what is your analytics? What does that do? So the analytics is our AI-based machine learning to help with smart recoveries. So every time a backup is copied to the vault, and this is only in the vault, so let's make sure we're in the vault. Every time a backup is copied into the vault, we do a full index of the data that's on that backup set. We compare 200 plus statistics that indicate a cyber attack on every backup that comes in. And then we do a process of machine learning, to understand how the backups are supposed to look in your environment. So once one backup goes in, it gets analyzed, not just metadata. This actually goes into the content and headers, and it also does databases. And not many people are doing databases at all, right? So as the next backup comes in, it does the same thing, but it compares that backup to the previous backup. And it does it again and again. Now, you have a backup that comes in, and Rich has been doing something in the environment. He got access to the environments. He started doing some slow encryption. And now we're backing the data up. The data gets copied to the vault. We start analyzing, and we see a problem. Corruption is detected. Even partial encryption, similar to what Buy Online can do, our solution can find and detect that in the backups. This has a 99.99% effective in detecting corruption using its full contents of files and databases that it goes through. Now, once it sees corruption, it gives you an alert, and you have a table and you have a dashboard that can tell you what type of thing attacked you, the ransomware that was detected, the files that are corrupted. It also monitors the change files, deleted files, move files, breached accounts. So if Jennifer is in there and she's doing something wrong, it's going to tell us. But the best part about this,
I gotta be doing something wrong.
They know the truth.
What happened?
Well, I've got to be the one doing something wrong. It's usually Gerard. It's always Gerard.
The most times that is.
Hey, Brian.
Somebody actually had your account.
Brian, what? Sorry, I'm looking over here because this is where you are to me.
Okay.
So the detection for anything outside of just corrupted files like ransomware, breached user accounts, breached executables. What exactly is it looking for? What type of feeds or IOCs is that mapping against? What's it doing?
It's not even, there's no signature base or by default. It's looking for behavior changes and content changes of the files. So if you go in and change a file name and maybe it's obfuscated or something, or there's some partial encryption, or even someone modified a SQL table and you didn't know, this will actually go in and find it. So there's no virus signature that it's looking for. However, it does have the option to find virus signatures. If you want to find a WannaCry, or Conti, you can import that information to do a search. It'll go in and find the data, but that's not the regular way that it goes through. It's looking for behavior changes of your data.
So how does it know a breached executable from something else that was just updated or changed through normal behavior?
Through the machine learning. So it learns the data as it goes through. Now, it may find something that looks suspicious, but that's what the forensic reports are for. It allows you to go in and look at the details of all the things that it's finding as a problem. And it may not be a problem, right? It may have been something that somebody actually did on purpose, right? And we also have thresholds that you can modify to do something, do decoy testing. So you can validate that it actually is finding corruption in your environment. Does that help, Jennifer? Was it Jennifer?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no
So
problem.
is the machine learning trained on specifically stuff for Dell products, or is this just industry data? Is there something in there?
Machine learning is actually, it's a unique technology that's done by our OEM partner called Index Engines. They've gone in and done some extensive testing, right, and training on live ransomware from academia, virus totem, and even pulling content from the dark web to understand virus and ransomware techniques. So I'll give you an example of how we got the 99.99%. So a third party ran this for us. 125,000 data samples. 94,100 were infected. 94,097 were detected. That's real accurate. Not many people are even doing $125,000 samples to validate their solution. And this works with files, folders, databases, critical rebuild data, and everything. It actually is pretty darn good.
So this was specifically for Dell, or is this industry-wide?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
So is this training that was done, is it specifically for Dell products or
Yes.
industry-wide?
Yes, CyberSense is a solution that we OEM that works with our cyber recovery solution in our vault. That's what we have. Mhm.
But is the data? Thank you.
Anybody's data.
Thank you.
Yeah, as far as the data, I'm making sure I answered the question.
Yeah, I was asking what data was it actually trained on, the AI and ML?
Oh, yeah, it's trained on a variety of data that comes in, including your own backup data, but it's using these statistics that actually represent ransomware attack in the machine learning. This actually can find corruption on a backup that's done the first time. Because it can go in and see all these different things that it's trained on based on dark web stuff, virus total that's out there. It's a training module that goes through and teaches it how to detect corruption. And that's what we're doing. Okay. Hopefully that helped out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the final thing that comes in is it gives you the last good backup. So Miriam, when you're sitting in there and everything is running and you get all these different good jobs, the virus is going through and the alerts are coming, the backup jobs are coming through as good, and then one comes up as suspect, you still have a last good backup copy there that you can actually restore from going. And this is where the smart part comes in because it gives you that last good backup visibly. So you can see all the data that's there that you can do a quick recovery as you want. Okay? Now, recover from a cyber attack, you don't want to do certain things alone, right? We do have our services that come into play. When we think about the cyber resilience of data protection that we offer, there's that advisory design, implementation, deployment. These things come into play that you talk with our team to help you build out the right data protection and resilience play that you need. Business resiliency services help you with your applications. So you might have a database that needs to be up all the time, or you might have an ERP system that needs to be, all these things we talk help you get those up, understand those, and also understand the availability of how they need to be in case of a cyber attack. Cyber recovery services, we can operate and manage the whole thing for you, or as it is, you can run it on your own. But just a quick wrap up. When we talked about protection, I talked about data domain being the foundation, using data isolation and the air gap, but also want to make sure that our storage solutions also have very similar tools here as well. Mutability, snapshot management, multi-factor authentication, just as Samir mentioned, and they also have a vault for some of our storage. And the other good part is they integrate directly with data domain as well. And then you think about the recovery, cyber recovery vault, second to none. The clean room, being able to help you analyze data and application before restoring them to make sure they're good in order you have a smart recovery in order to get back to business. Business process recovery and testing. Testing. It comes into play of making sure you are testing the recovery processes of your data so it's not just restoring the virus back into your production environment. You're actually restoring it clean copies. And then our laptops and servers also have some recovery points, as Samir and Adam also mentioned: BIOS recovery, automatic system recovery, absolute resilience platform. We have those for laptops and servers as well. And then our forensics, as I mentioned, CyberSys analytics, 99.99% effective in finding the corruption. Our laptops and servers also have a BIOS image capture as well. It helps with forensic analysis. And then finally, our incident response. This is what Adam mentioned earlier. Incident response comes in to help with containment of the ransomware. They help with the communication to make sure that the right business units within your organization are have the right communication, are informed and understand what's going on. They work on eradicating the virus. Ransomware, it could be everywhere, multiple locations and all types of files. They have to work with you to help eradicate that before you do the restore. Validate the backups. You want to make sure that the backups that you're restoring are good. That's where those analytics come into play. And they help you prepare your infrastructure. Putting your servers, network, laptops, production, the workloads back in place before doing the restore is really important. So some of these lessons learned: lack an effective tested incident response plan, poor communication across the business, poor understanding of the perimeter to contain the threat, and a lack of recovery or documentation of critical systems. Now, when you put all these things into play, here's an example. San Felipe del Rio. This is a school board in Texas. They were hit with multiple ransomware attacks. Okay? Prior to the last ransomware attack, it took them weeks to get back up and running. Students aren't doing manual applications, no email. It was just a terrible time. When they came in and worked with Dell, picked up cyber recovery and CyberSense, they were hit again with another cyber attack. As opposed to weeks being able to restore, it only took them hours. And many people were like, there's no way it took you hours. But it's because they did all the planning. They did all the testing. They had the communication between the business units. They did all the things that they needed to follow in order to restore quickly and smart and not have to pay the ransom. Now, you can ask Manuel, hey, before cyber recovery and CyberSense in your environment, how'd you sleep? Well, he probably slept a bit restless. But you can ask him now, how's he sleeping now? And now he's sleeping quite comfortable. And that's what Dell Data Resilience can do for your customers and to help you recover from a cyber attack. Hope everybody sleeps well this evening.
Is there a white paper or something that can elaborate a bit more about that effort of that you've mentioned in terms of trying to understand how those ransomware attacks worked, that helped to develop those 200 content-based metrics?
Yes, we do. We can definitely make sure you get access to those. We do have them on our website as well. To get that 99.99% confidence of detection. We have that. We also have some solution briefs. We have as much content as you want so you can understand that. Definitely. We'll make sure you can get that.
You
Any
mentioned,
other questions?
yeah, you mentioned services. Are there
Mhm.
like the managed detection and response service? Is there like a backup and recovery service? If I don't want to run this myself, I could just pay Dell to do it.
100%. Yep. We definitely have those services. We also have the services where you can do some of the work and we can do the other part of the work. So we kind of can balance it out for whatever you want for your SLAs and your outcomes that you want. We have services that we can provide for that.
And I'm curious, do you feel like that service is getting more popular as ransomware has become a bigger issue, or like what's sort of the split between DIY and doing it as a service?
Yeah, they are becoming more popular. Here's one thing about our incident response, right? And Adam, I want you to make sure you correct me, but we even do incident response services on non-Dell hardware and software.
Okay.
That's how cool our incident response team is.
Yeah,
We
that's right,
definitely want to
Brian.
help people recover from cyber attacks, and that's really the key.
I'll just underline their coolness. Yeah, they do all sorts of different engagements there, whether it's, operating Vault Technologies or actually on the incident response side. It's certainly a cohesive set of services.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you make sure that the credentials for the vault are actually different than the one for the production backup or the production side? Because people will try to use the same passwords everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what we prevent them from doing. Now, we can go in there and we advise you set it up for it to be the proper way. But Jasper, you may decide to go in and change all of that around. But that means that you've gone in and made that choice, right? But the credentials, the Active Directory, all of that has to be separated from the production environment for it to be configured properly. And that's the way we do it. And our deployment services will work with you on making sure that that is the case. So Jasper, your account that you have in your productions won't be in that vault. Now, again, you might come back later, but then that's some insider threat stuff happening, right?